Now, if you haven't read the book Gulag Archipelago, I strongly suggest that you do. Because there are some themes there. There are certain things that happen there which makes you really think when you see them happening now. Like certain aspects of the communist ideology, certain things that when you read, you wonder, how did people think like that? Why was it allowed? And then you see them being portrayed today. And one of those things has to do with the author talking about how on the streets, the criminal would get compassion. And so if the criminal was caught with the knife, they would say, well, it's just his nature, didn't know any better, didn't understood. Meanwhile, the real criminal was the intellectual. Like the person that was counter-revolutionary. And this is the creation of the concept tyrannical anarchy. Like what does tyrannical anarchy mean? Well, it's a system where you have a group of people that are at the top and they're grifting like no tomorrow. They're enriching themselves, they're living like royals. And they allow anarchy to run amok. Why do they allow anarchy to run amok? So that people get upset at the anarchy rather than the politicians. So in other words, you have a society where criminals, I can't say that are allowed to commit crime, but, you know, the law is very soft on crime when it comes to them. And meanwhile, the actual crackdown is on the people that say hate speech online, whatever the fuck that means. It's on the people that have political opinions, basically like anything that threatens the establishment. And so, like, tell me if you don't know a system today in any country that behaves like that. Well, actual criminals, it's like, well, you know, crime happens, part and parcel of living in a big city. What can you do about it? But someone sings some rap limericks online, boom, instant crackdown. And so, it's not the politicians that are doing this, but you get to see people supporting this behavior as well. You know, I remember books being published on Amazon in defense of looting, as if it's like some Shakespearean novelty, as if it's some really interesting brainstorming thing. You read comic books in DC Comics, and you read a Batman story, and in that story there's actual looting going on. It's riots. And Batman goes like, well, I'm not going to judge them because they're a victim of society. In other words, like this mindset, you know, comes from a private company. It's not from the government. It's from a private company knowing that teenagers read the comics, so they're using Batman as a VTuber in order to tell the teenager how to think, right? She's like, well, criminals are just a victim to society. They're innocent. Meanwhile, if someone does, I don't know, a January 6th or something, you'll notice that he's being treated extremely different than the criminal. If you have people that are protesting against COVID lockdowns, extremely different treatment. If you have individuals that don't like what their kids are being told at school, extremely different treatment. But you would think like the guy that's stabbing and murdering, you'd think like that would be the one that would get the ire of society. Like he should be in the spotlight as the public enemy numero uno. Because at the end of the day, you know, like someone doing hate speech online, like you can choose not to go online, but like someone that goes out in the street, forms a gang and terrorizes a neighborhood, like how do you escape that if you live in that neighborhood? And so like maybe we should have less compassion for criminals. That like what is it with this like huge compassion for the actual criminals, but almost none for the victims? And it seems that, you know, people have had enough. Like, this is one of the main reasons that Donald Trump did get elected, is because people have noticed this consistently. And they had enough. And I keep saying this, like, Donald Trump is the rage and disgust of the American people made manifest. Like, they summoned him. They summoned El Demonio specifically to upset people like Michael Moore. Like, Michael Moore is an extremely opinionated person. And every single time he says things that would shock your grandfather. Because your grandfather probably didn't experience rhetoric like this. And look at this, you know, who's really being removed by ICE tonight? The child who'd have discovered the cure for cancer in 2046, the 9th grade nerd who would have stripped that asteroid that's going to hit us in 2032. Do we care? I really hate like this line of rhetoric. It's pure emotional manipulation. I've heard it a million fucking times. Okay, what if you're also removing Hitler by this logic, right? Like the idea is that if you deport people, right? Like what if you deport the next Einstein? Okay, but what if you deport the next Hitler then? What a dumb fucking question. Like, by this logic, you should also stop arresting people who break the laws. You know, what if you're arresting the next Einstein? It's fucking insane. You know, oh, he was trading pot. Yeah, sure, but like that pales in comparison with the cure for cancer that he could have discovered if you allowed him to remain on the street. Yuck, yuck, yuck. And then, you know, you can simply have right-wingers saying the exact counter-argument and being, well, you know, but you're in favor of abortions. What if you abort the next Einstein? And by the way, they actually used that argument. Like this is a right-wing argument. I remember it during the Bush era. It's literally the same argument. Again, I'm not casting moral judgment, but I am saying that it's word for word the same argument that was used by right-wingers that were against abortions and being like, well, what if you abort the next Einstein? And I remember like back then, like more than a decade ago, and I was like, well, what if you abort the next Hitler? It's like, can we stop with the appeal to emotion? Well, actually, you know, I'm not blaming Michael Moore for using it because it's effective. I'm blaming the people that keep falling for it. But the response is amazing. And this is like the White House responding. And that's a good thing, you know, because in the first Trump presidency, they wouldn't respond. They wouldn't clap back. And it's so awesome when they do respond and they do clap back because it's so fucking effective. And it's also the circus that people so covet. You know, if he is not capable of making entertainment, if he is not capable of making good movies, well, at least we get our entertainment from White House responding. Michael Moore is free to visit the quantum computing and particle physics labs that MS-13 TDA and the cartel are now going to have to set up back home in El Salvador, Venezuela, and Mexico. He's also like so disconnected. Like doctors and engineers have become a meme. Because, you know, like, this rhetoric would have worked in 2016 where people were gullible and they didn't have any point of reference. And it would be like, well, look, you can't deport those people because it's like, it's the doctors and engineers. And then you see the crime rate spiking, you get to see the stabbings and all of that shit. And you're like, oh, another doctor and engineer, I guess, right? Look at them fighting the police officers, all those doctors and engineers. And it was so bad that the media stopped using this argument, but now Michael Moore shows his beautiful face again, bringing the exact same talking point. Didn't work very well for him. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. And as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.